Hello, I'm Toycat and welcome back to the second channel video. Today we'll be talking about Google Maps. That's right, the thing I use as the backdrop for most of my videos, geography or non-related. It's, a really useful tool to see the world. It's just a mapping service basically, but there's lots of things about Google Maps in particular that I really do quite like and that I find really odd, and that you probably found the same if you're using it for travel purposes or just because you're curious about the world, because if you try to Street View, that's right, use this little yellow dude to see what's going on in the world, you can see, most countries from any random street. So I can just click it right there and we'll be in some random street somewhere in France, right? And we can see most of the world like this. This is actually quite a cool one, but you can see most of the world by just randomly street viewing the world, and it's really, really interesting to do this. But when you look at the map, you can see there are some places you can't street view. Some of these are oceans, obviously you can't go there. Some of these are countries like Greenland or Syria, where you're like, well, I can understand why Google didn't drive cars around Syria or Greenland, or like in the middle of Africa. But there are lots of countries like Germany, and there are lots of countries like Belarus, or there's lots of other just weird parts of the world where you can't see Google Maps, and this raises questions. Why is it not there? So I figured, why not talk about places that Google doesn't allow you to see, or that you're not allowed to see for some reason on Google, and that's what I'm doing today's video, because I'm just kind of curious. And also, while we're here anyway, because like, let's goof around Google Maps, I wanted to also talk about like other countries, and one really fascinating thing, because Korea's going to come up. North Korea on Google Maps is a fun thing. So yeah, let's just get straight into the first thing, which is countries you cannot see on Google Maps. When it comes to North America / Europe, the two continents that most of you watching this video are from, you can actually see most cities and pretty much most of the world you can see on this sort of thing. The only places you can't, when it comes to like Canada, because it goes like into the wilderness where it's not very, like well explored and stuff. You can see how that sometimes happens in Northern European countries, of like that little bit of Sweden where it's just mountains and stuff. But most of these countries are covered in most ways. Same thing with Iceland, the middle. Most people live around the outside of Iceland. The middle is kind of just, I think, some big volcanoes and mountains and stuff. Same sort of thing where you can be like, okay, those are natural geography features. But then you see the big exceptions to this rules, which is about 4 European countries. Again, we've got Germany, we've got Austria. For some reason, we got Bosnia, we got Belarus, also Moldova and Kosovo. But, oh, my head has gone missing. Let's just pretend it's not there. Yeah, this is weird, but whatever. Point being, ignore my head for now, and let's focus on Germany, Austria, Bosnia, Belarus, and Moldova and Kosovo. So Kosovo has actually been in this big period of dispute, and you can kind of understand why that's not there. But the other 3 countries that aren't, Germany and Austria, as far as I can tell, there's no official reason why they haven't been mapped yet. It's just one of those things where Google decided countries to map one by one, and they kind of just decided, oh yeah, some point later would be good for that. Like, they have some service planned, but right now there is no way to check the maps in Moldova, Belarus, or Bosnia. The only way to do so is to actually, like, again, you have to use the little view bubbles. There's 4 in the total of Bosnia, there's 2 in the total of Moldova, and there's a lot more in Belarus, but still means that there's only some ways to see those countries. So what about Germany and Austria? Well, this is the really fun one, because again, I looked into this dispute thinking, oh yeah, well, I heard that like there was big privacy concerns on Google Maps in Germany, but it's really interesting because what actually happened is Google assumed that they could just, Google Maps Germany. So what they did is they drove their cars around the 20 biggest cities to start with, I think it is. So you can see it's like all the major cities in Germany, like I think that's 20, plus some ski resorts and stuff. It might be a bit less, but point being, they drove it around the biggest cities in Germany. They got all of the streets from this sort of stuff. So if you want to see, let's say Mannheim, you want to see some streets in here, then guess what? We can do that. This is a street in Mannheim, and you can do that on Google Maps. However, the vast majority of Germany, i.e. everything but those 20 biggest cities, wasn't mapped, and between the time where they mapped those 20 biggest cities and where, they were trying to do the rest, Germany had a big privacy concern, because the Google Maps cars weren't just tracking the, this is what they did for all countries. They weren't just tracking, like seeing what was going on in, let's say, Frankfurt, or they weren't seeing what was going on in, let's say, Bonn. They were actually also seeing, like, they were taking, like, Wi-Fi information, lots of private information, and given that both Germany and Austria are very private countries, this was like a big invasion to them, and there was like lots of big high court disputes back and forth. There was like a fine involved, and they basically said, Google, okay, you can do it under these conditions, and although they gave them permission again in the end, the list of demands was just so much, Google just said, no, you can keep your existing Street View, but we're not going to drive cars around the rest of it. So yeah, why can't you see Germany on Google Street View? Because they are allowed to go around, but they've just decided not to because the concerns are too crazy. I actually, to give you a random example, I checked this a really long time ago, so I'll try and find the exact street, but lots of people just blur out their houses, and it means it's kind of messy like that, like this person right here, and a random just little street here, you can see like that house is blurred out, which is kind of hard, and Google has to, every single one of these requests they receive, they have to respond to. So yeah, fun little fact, they can actually blur, if you look down any German street, we'll find, okay, let's go in Berlin, everyone's favorite German city, right, or the most well-known one. If we just go down a random street for long enough, then you'll find there'll be houses blurred out, and it's not only ugly to look at, but it's also time-consuming for Google to go through and do, so let's just try and find that. That building, just entirely gone. That building over there, entirely gone. And although this happens in other countries, it seems to happen a lot more in Germany, and there seems to, like, I think there's a form they need to have available, which means, as you can see, like, Germany is just not a fun city to Street View, so Google is just not doing it. The same thing is actually true for Austria, but in even less severe sort of terms, where like, oh yeah, Austria was kind of skeptical about it, and then they said, sure, you can have permission, but they'd kind of already, you know, not done it, so you've got Vienna, I think, a little bit off, and then that's about it. The rest of Austria, just uncovered. So yeah, that's why 2 countries are just not covered by Street View, because, you know, privacy concerns and then that. Interestingly though, again, when you look at other countries that are uncovered, you can kind of see them and be like, oh yeah, that's kind of interesting. Like, all of Africa makes sense, but there's a few African countries, one by one, which are being introduced to Street View. So you got stuff like Ghana, which is coming in, you know, like, they're picking random African countries and just picking them one by one. But fascinatingly to me is that even though South Korea, so fun fact, North Korea on Google Maps used to be gone, but they actually have full mapping data. You can look around North Korea now, but South Korea, you know, has really horrible mapping data because it's like a military secret, like their high quality maps, which means for some reason you have to look at maps which look like this. This isn't my internet, this isn't like, you know, some weird problem with Google, this is just how the highest quality of maps they're allowed to offer. However, in spite of this, South Korea actually is street viewed. So if you want to see South Korea from the map level, you can't. If you want to see it from the street level, you can see it perfectly, which is one of those just fascinating little fun facts that even though South Korea has one of the most restrictive map policies in the world, they don't have the restrictive street view policies, so you can see it better from the street. It's confusing. You know, if I was an invading general, if I was going to invade South Korea, which I'm not, if you're watching from South Korea, don't worry, this isn't a threat. But if you were, you could do so just fine with Street View. And as you can see, like, trying to see what's going on here, it's awful. You can't actually click on any of these. These are like images saved on there. It's a really terrible experience trying to use Google Maps in South Korea. I think there's a service you can use there, but South Korea is terribly covered, but North Korea isn't. But fascinatingly, while we're here, because we're just on tangents anyway, because, you know, this is just Toy Cat Talks about Google Maps. One thing I love about North Korea is that North Koreans, by and large, aren't allowed to use the internet. They have an own internalized internet, which means that although North Korea has internet, it has Google Maps and has all the places listed on there, so we can see the ideals of the North Korean Workers' Party. They all actually, so this is a pagoda. All of the reviews aren't left by, like, North Koreans themselves, so we try and find something like, I don't know, I'm going to try and find a fun example, like, okay, we got a train station here, right? This is East Pyongyang train station. It's got a 3.2 star review rating, and it's got 13 reviews, with stuff like, way better than East Hollywood. I could tell, I could go to all the concentration camps nearby by foot from the station. 10 out of 10 would bring my family as a sacrifice to the great leader. The entertainment on the train was great. I saw a whole family get executed. It looks so real. I was killed by a nuke. Oh, hell. Okay, you know, but you get the point. All of these reviews are left by people out there. Oh, except this person. Those cars are fake. They don't have oil to move cars. And my point with all of this is that Google Maps in North Korea exists about North Korea exclusively by North Koreans. And that's just a fun little fact while we're here also. So yeah, there are countries in the world that you cannot Street View. Surprisingly, you know, the big ones that are absent are Germany, Austria. A lot of the other countries that are missing are just missing because they haven't been done yet, with like a few exceptions of like, oh yeah, Kosovo's in a weird place. It's Crimea, you know, the most recently annexed territory. Isn't that fun? Ooh, yeah, let's not cover that too. And there's also a lot of other weird, you know, exceptions where, like, you know, towns in like Ukraine are missing. And basically my point being is Google has to manually drive cars around these places, and there are some places they've decided that's not worth their time. However, eventually you'll be able to Street View more stuff, and if you just live in, like, you know, Western or Northern or, you know, anywhere but like Bosnia, Kosovo, Moldova or Belarus, then you got yourself covered in Europe at least. So I guess there's that. I don't know. The point of this video was just kind of to point out like a weird thing of Germany and Austria, to point out the North Korea thing, and to say, I'll be making more videos in the next few weeks. I know I've been less active on this channel, but it's just one of these things where it's like, when I feel like talking about something, I will, and that's like, I guess that's how YouTube works here. But I mean, it's not good with the current YouTube algorithm, but it's just what I've been doing here. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video, and I guess, second channel, don't care. Goodbye. F9.